If everybody is on, Amy, I'll ask that you call the roll again so that we know everyone can see and hear.
All right, let's try this again. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Here.
Commissioner Hassler,
Here.
Commissioner Price,
Here.
Commissioner Punch, and Commissioner Schwerin.
Here.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
I did hear you say here, right?
Yeah. Commissioner Punch, you're on mute.
Here.
Okay, there we go. We're sorry again for the inconvenience of our problems with technology. Maybe in about a year we'll get this right. First item on the agenda is the third quarter budget report. Chief?
Thank you, Judge. I'm going to have Mr. Becker, Director of the Division of Human Resources, give you an update on budget.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few highlights from the third quarter fiscal report. We have an adjusted budget. I'm going to round the numbers for ease. $147 million. This is the original budget plus purchase orders that were rolled over from previous years. For example, with body cameras, we haven't purchased all of them. And so that money is unspent from the previous year that we anticipate spending this year. So spent year to date, we're right on track. It's 75% of our budget, right on target. There's 37 million remaining in our budget. The only concerns are how the protest and COVID reimbursements will pan out, but we are currently waiting on county fiscal management to move COVID expenditures to the CARES funding, and that will free up about $1.7 million. And the retirement payouts are a little bit exceeding the budgeted amounts, but we're not concerned about that because these shortages will be covered by current vacancies that are not filled, positions that are not filled. And then finally, the 2021 budget will be a committee of the whole meeting where the chief will be addressing the committee on November 9th. And that is the budget report.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Lieutenant Dolly, statistics.
Yes, I have a PowerPoint. I usually do. They'll have to make you a presenter if you want to see that. I've texted Dean. Oh, here we go. I think he made me presenter. Okay, can everybody see the PowerPoint? Everybody shaking their head, yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, we will quickly go through this. So these are the crime stats for our patrol areas up until September of 2020. So the first thing we'll cover here are the performance indicators, and those do have some crime issues in there, which we'll discuss in the upcoming slides. But I just briefly want to cover the citizen complaints, internal investigations, use of force, department vehicle accidents, pursuits, all these administrative type things. So we're looking real good on those as far as this year goes. Again, it's been an odd year, obviously, with COVID, and then we've had demonstrations. So a lot of these are down probably as a byproduct of that. But nevertheless, these are good as far as looking at percent change from year to year. If we go to UCR Part 1 crimes, so we're looking at September of 2020 compared to the last two Septembers in 18 and 19, and then also looking at the year to date. As I do every month, I'll give you kind of a synopsis here of the highlights of what we want to look at. So these aggravated assaults with firearms are becoming, they've always been a concern, but they really kicked up here in September. So if you notice sort of in the middle of the screen there, if you can see my mouse, we had 125. So we really jumped up a lot in these ag assaults with firearms compared to the previous two Septembers. Year to date on those, we're up almost 40%. So these ag assaults with firearms are really still elevated at this point. As we move down this table and we go to burglaries and larcenies, we have huge decreases right here, the negative 23% for the year, negative almost 9% for the year. Again, it's probably COVID related. They're coming back a little bit as far as we're getting more of those now that as people are moving around in society doing things, but those are driving what our overall numbers are. So last one I'll talk about as far as a category is motor vehicle theft, and those are up 20.5%. So if you add all this together, the way this all comes out is we're at negative 2.4% all Part 1 crimes for 2020 compared to 2019. Now, that is a good number, but again, that's primarily driven from all these larcenies that are decreased. We have these huge larceny numbers in the several thousand. So when those are down, then that's going to drive your overall percent numbers being down. So I'll move into then the 5-month comparison. This is just looking at the same numbers a little bit different way. We're looking at the last 5 months, basically. So again, ag assaults with firearms, we had a huge month in September. Those really bumped up from the previous months. Same with the larcenies. We could expect that as more people are out and about doing things. And the motor vehicle thefts have went up quite a bit as well. For these motor vehicle thefts, I will say that unfortunately, not quite this time of the year, but the months ahead are usually kind of rough for those. We usually do have some enforcement actions and some preventative type programs for that. This has a lot to do with the cars being warmed up on the cold mornings. So a lot of times we'll send out social media flyers to try to tell everybody, remind people not to leave their cars running unattended. So I just want to show you some maps real quick of these different types of crimes, just to give you a kind of idea of what we're talking about here, another way to look at it as far as geospatially. So on the left, you have the aggravated assaults for firearms in 2019. And you can see these are density maps. So you can see we have our patrol areas on there, and you can see where there was a lot of density. If you move to the right, that map over there is for the same area, obviously, but you have the 2020 ag assaults with firearms. So you can see a difference in where these are. The general overall pattern is the same, but we have some hot spots in different places. For example, Spanish Lake has a lot more of the ag assaults with firearms this year compared to last year. But again, the overall numbers are up. So the next screen has similar type maps on there, but the crime we're talking about here are motor vehicle thefts. So again, the overall patterns on the left in 2019, sort of similar, but if we look at the right, then we have these new hotspots emerging again in Spanish Lake, and also farther north up by Florissant, we have another big hotspot that's emerged up there with the stolen vehicles. So I'm going to move on to ShotSpotter here briefly, because this is a sort of a proxy of crime. It gives us another indicator of what's going on in the community. So unfortunately, these are tracking exactly the way the ag assaults makes sense. So for example, the total number of events this year so far, we have 2,000 in unincorporated around Castle Point, plus another 800 in Jennings. That whole area usually produces about 2,500 events total for the entire year. So already they're at 2,800 for the year. We didn't have a full, I don't think we had a full year last year of the Spanish Lake, so they're at 1,500 so far, but definitely on track where they usually are. This is just if we look at all the unique ShotSpotter events by the week of the year so far. We are higher definitely in 2020. These numbers are a little odd to look at because we didn't have Spanish Lake through all of last year. So that's why you have two different lines. The 2020 no SPL is without Spanish Lake, and then the two converge. And then, of course, if you go back to week one, that's New Year's. We have a ton of, unfortunately, we have a ton of gunshots with New Year's Eve celebrations. So I'll move on quickly to directed calls for service here. So with those, this is what we see a lot of the time where I mentioned this month after month, but this is the time of year where we see a little bit of a dip. We start to see that dip in directed calls for service. So they are going down in all the precincts, I think, except for one. So that column there to the right, to September, we're decreasing slightly from these summer months, which is to be expected. And then conversely, you have an increase in self-initiated as we go month to month. And we see that here in September as these numbers are all moving up just slightly as the officers have more free time to do those self-initiated activities. And finally, I talked a little bit at length about these last month, so I won't cover them as greatly tonight, but our traffic stop reports, all of our numbers are pretty static. They're similar to what they typically are. And again, we review these in several different ways to keep an eye on those. So with that, that's the end of my presentation on crime stats. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Is there a strategy that can be developed to try and reduce the assaults with weapons?
Yeah, so I was just recently in talks with our captain over the Bureau of Drug Enforcement, and they have the Federal Strike Force, which is a combination of a lot of our officers and federal officers. And so we're sort of looking at new ways to put our analysts together to try to come up with better information about that stuff. So we're hoping to do that. I will say that a lot of this, you know, I read all the different publications from the Police Executive Research Forum, and unfortunately, this is a trend that is not only here in St. Louis, but it's throughout the country. And I wouldn't want to speculate on why it is exactly, because even your top criminologists don't have it pinned down exactly as to why this is happening, why you're seeing this spike in violent crime.
Any other questions for Lieutenant Dolly?
The numbers around Narcan saves are substantially down despite a report showing a 50% increase in opiate overdoses in specifically Black men and women in the last 6 months, an astonishing spike. Are officers less likely to intervene because of COVID concerns? Do you think that has anything to do with that trend?
I don't know. That question has been presented to me before, and I don't have real hard evidence one way or another that that's the case. What we're wondering is also, not to totally dismiss that notion, but then also there is now the availability of Narcan by family members. So we're just wondering how that all plays out, that if that is being used before people call EMS, the police. So yeah, I have been asked that question before. I don't have a good answer for you, but yeah, it's something worth looking into.
Any other questions? If not, we'd like to welcome Councilman Ernie Trachis, who's come to visit with us about the Afton Precinct Station.
Good evening, everyone. My privilege to be here with you. And Judge Price, thank you for the introduction. It's always good to see you folks. I sent you a letter earlier this afternoon, basically just giving you a highlight of my meeting with the county executive and members of the Department of Transportation and Public Works regarding the construction of both the South and North County precincts, Precinct 3 in South County, Precinct 1 in North County. And as my letter said, we were able to plot a strategy successfully that's going to result in the ability to, as originally planned, pursue the construction of both precincts in tandem with no delays of consequence. I fully expect that the rebonding will be done in January of next year. I've been told by Public Works that the invitations for bids will be out within probably a month, and the general contractor identified. And in theory, actually, I believe that the destruction of existing property on the South County site will begin in December.
Well, we'd like to thank you very much for working on that and making progress. Am I right in understanding that part of the delay here was uncertainty of funds due to the COVID pandemic and the county not knowing what its financial status might be?
That's in part correct, Judge. Obviously, the projections earlier on were much more drastic than they are now, and the budget director, Paul Kreidler, is his budget now is much different in terms of what the county's revenue expectation is between CARES fund and tax revenue. So we're confident that rebonding will go forward. I'm confident the council will approve it, and the funds will be available to pursue both precincts in conjunction with one another, as originally planned, I might add.
Very good. Well, thank you again very much. And since you were here, I was happy to have you speak. Do we need to read your letter now, or have you taken care of what you were going to tell us?
I've taken care of it. The letter is just as to make sure that you guys were aware of what had transpired with the county executive, his agreement, and the better picture with respect to funding, and that to assure you that both precincts will proceed as scheduled in tandem. And I think, as I explained somewhat, the South County location is further along in terms of everything that's needed to begin construction. So it's likely that will start prior to North County. Once North County has completed acquisition of easements and vacation of roads and other property, then that project will begin. It might be several months before those types of boxes are checked off for North County. But once that's done, I expect that will initiate up there.
Very good. Thank you again for your efforts. We appreciate that.
Glad to do it, Chief. There's nothing more important to me than public safety. I can tell you that. And I greatly appreciate the efforts of the commissioners as well as our exceptional police department.
Very good. Thank you. Unless anybody has an objection, I'll move right to the public forum where we were going to have a listening session regarding the collective bargaining agreement, so that people who are interested in that can hear it, and then we'll go back and pick up on our contracts and things like that later. Is that acceptable? Okay, if it is, I have a brief comment just to start out. The authority for negotiating and executing collective bargaining agreements lies in whatever office is authorized to execute those contracts. The council, the county council, authorizes by ordinance who has such authority. Historically, the council has authorized the county executive to sign union agreements, including those agreements that relate to the police department employees. The county councilor signs as to legal form, and the county fiscal officer signs as to the sufficiency of funds that may be obligated. Union negotiations are closed meetings pursuant to statute, section 610.021, subpart 9 of the revised Missouri statutes, and the corresponding county ordinances. Until the tentative agreements are presented to the council for acceptance, rejection, or modification, neither the bargaining unit or management may discuss these things publicly. So we won't be able to comment to you, but we're certainly more than happy to listen to the comments you've submitted in writing. And we'll have Amy begin reading those in the order that they were received.
Okay, first one is from James Grace. I'm a resident of St. Louis County. I support the St. Louis County Police Department, and I voted yes on Prop P. The police officers of St. Louis County deserve to be well-trained, well-equipped, and well-paid. Next, we have from Sherry Nobby. As a resident of St. Louis County, I feel very strongly about maintaining our existing police structure. It's inconceivable that we revert to a citizen patrol structure. I can only begin to comprehend what is involved in policing the public today. We are constantly dealing with citizens who feel that they don't have to be held to a structure of rules and regulations, that they are free to do and say what they want with no regard to any other citizen. We need a strong group that can handle the difficult situations that these individuals create. I do not agree that difficult situations should be mishandled to the point of loss of life. I don't know what the answer is or how to handle individuals who appear to be out of control. I would rather someone who is trained be there to manage the situation. In regards to pay for our officers, they should be fairly compensated for the daily abuse and threats thrown their way. The county needs to ensure our officers can maintain a standard of living that is appropriate for what an officer faces on the job. The statement that there is no money is not acceptable. I hope that the board reaches reasonable decisions that are fair and deserved. Next, we have a comment from Laura Grace. I am a small business owner and also a resident in St. Louis County. I support the St. Louis County Police Department and am hoping and expecting that you will help the police officers to be paid fairly. They deserve proper training, equipment, and wages. Next comment is from Howard Marshall. I'm a resident of St. Louis County. I support the St. Louis County Police Department and voted yes on Prop P. The police officers of St. Louis County deserve to be well-trained, well-equipped, and well-paid. Next comment is from Irene Ryan. I'm a resident of Webster Groves, Missouri, and I'm writing to strongly encourage the following demands be discussed and met during your meeting. Number one, ensure Ethical Society of Police gets equal bargaining rights and status for the agreement. Number two, all personnel records should be opened and released for the public, especially officers with excessive and/or deadly force charges. Number three, amend the county charter to establish a purely civilian oversight committee, as well as extending oversight responsibilities to the county director of personnel.
This comment is from Amy Silvar. My name is Amy Silvar, and I'm a longtime resident of St. Louis County. I voted yes on Prop P and fully support our St. Louis County Police Department. The people of St. Louis County deserve police officers who are fully trained, fully equipped, and fairly paid for their work, especially in light of the negativity and poor treatment they face in our current world. Sincerely, Amy Silvar. Next is Michelle Grunder. This is Michelle Grunder, a St. Louis County resident of Wildwood. I support the St. Louis County Police Department as well as Prop P. Our police officers deserve to be well-paid, well-trained, and well-equipped now more than ever. Thank you for listening. The next letter is from Tricia Will. Regarding the collective bargaining, I feel my voice as a county resident should be heard. Police officers are in a time where they are facing citizens that cannot understand law or order. They put on their uniforms every day just to get spit at in some cases. Politics has pushed their way in much too far for the department to even function. It seems that a promotion cannot even come without a lawsuit on the back end of it. With that said, there needs to be more protection within the department for their own people. Collective bargaining is a time where officers' voices can be heard and their demands put on paper, which should be followed in the future. Stop moving officers / supervisors during the year. The agreement needs to have in place ways to help officers keep their positions, and they should be based on tenure and rank. With COVID this year, that is especially important for families and children for proper schooling. When officers do their job in the department needs to protect them and not fire them. Quit making officers afraid to arrest criminals or do what needs to be done because the media has created a race for. Give officers credit / pay for education, especially if that officer is promoted. That is what makes sense. America is demanding more educated / smarter police. Give it to them, especially the officers who earn degrees while in your employment. Set an age limit or physical fitness exam for officers who have been on the job for long periods of time. I saw the SAM page says the police budget needs to be cut. Once officers are able to retire a full pension, they should only be allowed to work up to 5 years after that at a time, or set an age limit. No one wants to look at officers that do not look like they cannot do the job. Not to mention that during COVID, the department was calling back retired officers. If they are still working, it's time to end that. Trim all of the non-policing departments well before cutting on actual officers. The crime is getting worse by the day, according to the news, making policing a career for people again. Give a youth a reason to want to be an officer and the current officers a reason to want to stay. I believe in a great police department and want more officers out there happy to do the job. It's already hard enough. The department should not make it worse. Thank you, Tricia Will. This one is from Carrie Pentelis. Just wanted to send my support to police officers. Very thankful they are here and hope they continue to be supported in the years to come. This one is from Carrie Will. I support our police. Would be even better if there were better protections for officers that are doing their jobs. Better money for those that have furthered their education while working for the department. Age limits for officers is needed.
Next comment is from John Chasnoff. Number 1, bargaining rights. Ethical Society of Police should be recognized as an equal bargaining unit and given equal rights and status throughout the details of the agreement. There are too many instances in the CBA where the Fraternal Order of Police is given privileges. We need parity of Ethical Society of Police and Fraternal Order of Police to promote racial equity. Number 2, personnel records. County police commissioners should pass a policy that personnel records are open under the Sunshine Law. Both Justice Department and a presidential task force in 2015 urged police to be more open about critical incidents. Names of officers involved in use of deadly force or accused of excessive force should be released to the public as soon as possible, unless the officer's safety would be jeopardized. Number 3, accountability. The CBA prohibition against any civilian review board other than the Board of Police Commissioners should be removed. Though the police commissioners and the CBA consider the commissioners an oversight board, we do not believe that the same agency that writes policy should oversee policy, and the commissioners do not currently have a formal system for appeals from civilians. A true civilian review board would put St. Louis County on par with such boards around the country, many of which have proven successful. To further remedy the current situation of police policing themselves, the county charter should be amended to begin integrating the police into the civil service and merit system rules. Those amendments should allow the Director of Personnel to partner with the Police Bureau Professional Standards to do joint investigation of possible policy violations by police. Number 4, secondary employment. Second jobs should not begin until formally approved by the chief. Employment situations that compromise the department should be banned, not be subject to the chief's approval as in the CBA. The allowance for 72 hours per week of combined police and secondary work is too much, more than that allowed for truckers, for example, and should be lowered. Overworked, exhausted officers are unsafe to themselves and others. Studies have shown that tired officers exercise worse judgment, show more implicit racial bias, and have more complaints against them. Number 5, seniority protections during periods of layoffs. Layoffs are too strong. Though some exceptions are allowed, those exceptions are inadequate. Quality of performance and departmental needs should be given top priority to ensure the best functionality. Next comment is from Michelle Valente. As a county resident, I'm writing to express some concerns I have regarding the collective bargaining agreement, specifically regarding bargaining rights, personnel records, and accountability. Regarding bargaining rights, the Ethical Society of Police should be recognized as an equal bargaining unit and given equal status throughout the details of the agreement. There are multiple instances in the CBA where the Fraternal Order of Police is given privileges. I'm concerned about the lack of racial equity. Regarding personnel records, County Police Board of Commissioners should pass a policy that personnel records are open under the Sunshine Law. Further, names of officers involved in any use of deadly force or accused of excessive force should be released to the public as soon as possible. Regarding accountability, the provision in the CBA denying the possibility of any civilian review board other than the Board of Police Commissioners should be removed. I do not believe that the same agency that writes policy should oversee policy. This creates distrust and questions about whether this is a true civilian oversight board. It appears this is an opportunity to examine systemic sources of harm and distrust in an effort to move toward greater accountability and repair. The next statement is from St. Louis Area Violence Prevention Commission. The St. Louis Area Violence Prevention Commission undertook 18 months of community engagement, including listening sessions, an online survey, and interviews with law enforcement, as well as a town hall and online survey to collect public input into the collective bargaining agreement. This engagement yielded a series of recommendations, some included here for modifying the Sergeant's CBA. First and foremost, we recommend the board implement an open process to infuse community voice into the CBA negotiations for this and all future CBAs, which must include a public education component to help residents understand the role of the CBA and how it impacts the relationship between community and police. A discussion facilitated by a third-party group in partnership with the police department and St. Louis County. An online survey for residents who cannot or do not feel comfortable attending a discussion session. We heard from both officers and the general public that they are concerned about the health and wellness of police officers. One survey respondent said, if we truly value the mental health of our officers and the potential negative effects of poor mental health in the community, then we need to comprehensively reevaluate how we look at mental health of our officers. We further recommend that the CBA be amended to include mandatory preventative mental health evaluation by a clinician with specialty recognizing trauma symptoms at a minimum yearly, but more often if the officer has experienced a traumatic event, including death of a partner or unit member, use of their gun on duty, or others to be defined by the department. Third, we recommend that performance evaluation with a community engagement component be used instead of seniority as the basis for retention and promotion decisions. Specifically, we put forth the following measures of community engagement as identified in our online survey to be added to officer performance evaluation. Citizen complaints and compliments, working with neighborhood residents to solve problems proactively, demonstrating positive contact with neighborhood residents, how satisfied officers who report to them are, attending community meetings, whether neighborhood residents in their patrol area feel safe. Further, we recommend that the St. Louis County Police Department enlist a civilian consultant with expertise in human resources to design an evaluation system that incorporates these metrics. Finally, we have additional recommendations for policy and procedure that we would be willing to discuss with the board members at their convenience. Next comment is from Kathy Rausch. I'm concerned about the police union as it currently stands, as it doesn't represent all officers in the state, and so want to let you know what policies I think should be instituted to remedy some of the issues that have come before the citizens of St. Louis City and County. The Ethical Society of Police should be recognized as equal bargaining unit and given equal rights and status throughout the details of the agreement. There are multiple instances in the CBA where the Fraternal Order of Police is given privileges. We need parity of Ethical Society of Police and Fraternal Order of Police to promote racial equity. County Police Board of Commissioners should pass a policy that personnel records are open under the Sunshine Law. Names of officers involved in any use of deadly force or accused of excessive force should be released to the public as soon as possible, unless the officer's safety may be jeopardized. The provision in the CBA denying the possibility of any civilian review board other than the Board of Police Commissioners should be removed. Though the police commissioners and the CBA consider the commissioners an oversight board, we do not believe that the same agency that writes policy should oversee policy, and the commissioners do not currently have a formal system of appeals from civilians. A true civilian oversight board would remedy these problems. To further remedy the current situation where police are policing themselves, the county charter should be amended to begin integrating the police into the county's civil service and merit system rules. Those amendments should allow the Director of Personnel to partner with the Police Bureau of Professional Standards to do joint investigation of policy violations by police. Thank you for your consideration. The next comment is from Jenny Trax. The provision in the CBA denying the possibility of any civilian review board other than the Board of Police Commissioners should be removed. Though the police commissioners and the CBA consider the commissioners an oversight board, the same agency that writes policy should not oversee policy, and the commissioners do not currently have a formal system of appeals from civilians. A true civilian oversight board would remedy these problems.
This message is from Ben Gray. Thank you for the opportunity to submit comments as part of this process. I believe that the names of officers involved in the use of deadly or excessive force, or officers found in breach of code of ethics, for example, planting or tampering with evidence, needs to be released to the public. From Barbara of University City, St. Louis County needs a true civilian oversight board. Currently, the CBA denies any possibility of a civilian review board. The police commissioners and the CBA accept that the commissioners act as an oversight board. The same agency that makes policy should not be reviewing whether or not the policy has been followed. More troubling is that there is no process for appeal. The county needs a civilian oversight board. This one is from Katie Irani. For the public input meeting, I would like the below comments to be read. Police CBA meetings must be made more open to the public with increased opportunity for community residents to give input and feedback, both virtually and in person. Meetings should also be more widely advertised to city and county residents with enough notice to provide adequate input. As part of the collective bargaining agreement, union contracts should include the right of citizens oversight committees and the director of personnel during instances of police misconduct to have access to all documentation and have input in accountability processes. The next comment is from Zoe Kraus. Hello. As a St. Louis area resident, accountability for St. Louis County Police is very important to me, and I believe our current system is not serving residents of the region well. The current situation where police are policing themselves is unacceptable and ineffective. This way of doing things continues to mean that there are few consequences for police officers, even when police officers break the law or act unethically. I strongly believe the county charter should be amended to begin integrating the police into the county's civil service and merit system rules. We should absolutely allow the director of personnel to partner with the Bureau of Professional Standards to do joint investigations of the possible policy violations as the police. Very simply, police should have to abide by the same rules and consequences as other civil servants and government officials. Further, the provision in the CBA denying the possibility of any civilian review board other than the Board of Police Commissioners should be removed. I do not believe that the same agency that writes policy should oversee policy, as it does not allow for checks and balances and true community accountability or oversight. St. Louisans deserve a true civilian oversight board and the process by which civilians can make formal appeals. For too long, police in our community have been allowed to operate with impunity without real oversight or consequences for bad actions. These changes are imperative to building a safe and accountable community for all St. Louisans. This comment is from Susie Shasnoff. While I appreciate the county police board's efforts towards openness by allowing only one day to submit public input regarding the police collective bargaining agreement, the board is offering the public what amounts to an empty gesture. Allowing only one day for input demonstrates a serious lack of caring about that input. Social media has revealed atrocities committed by police departments across our nation. These have resulted in calls to defund the police in order to reimagine public safety by reallocating police money towards meeting the needs of communities in order to get to the root of the source of crime. Clearly, this exposure and the global resonance of Mike Brown's murder has pushed the police board to at least give the appearance of some degree of openness to public feedback. I guess we can call this a baby step in the right direction. Actually, to me, it seems more of an ineffective measure meant to placate. Announcing on Friday, October 9th, a one-day opportunity for the public to give input 5 days later on October 14th alone showed a lack of good faith effort. Not only is Friday a throwaway news day, how widely was this advertised? 400 words is hardly ample to present a critique of such a serious endeavor. Allowing for only digital communication cuts off those who don't have computer access. Often, it is people without resources who are targeted by the police, and now these very same people have a time and technology hurdle to cross. If the board is sincerely interested in public response, the announcement would have gone out 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. Several town halls would have been held in various geographic locations along easy to access public transportation to maximize the chance that all those who want to be heard would have the opportunity. These meetings would have been scheduled in the evenings and or the weekends to accommodate working people. This would go a long way toward not only ensuring that all voices have the opportunity to be heard, it also allows various interest groups time to mobilize a response, therefore better ensuring that diverse voices will be heard. In addition, town halls can generate meaningful dialogue, sparking ideas that can lead to meaningful change. This comment is from Anna Gennari of Shrewsbury. Dear St. Louis County Police Board of Commissioners, I'm reaching out to you as a St. Louis County resident and the director of a national child welfare organization concerned with the lack of transparency and opportunities for the public in collective bargaining agreement negotiations between the St. Louis County and St. Louis County Police Officers Association. There was not a public notice about the option of public input. Only a limited amount of time was given to the community to give their input, with only 400 words allowed. These actions and measures subvert public safety and the public's trust in our police and our tax dollars. In addition, I would like to see the omission of any language that gives sergeants preferential access to evidence over civilians in misconduct cases, the inclusion of more civilian oversight in misconduct cases, and a streamlined process to get misconduct cases information out to the public. These are a few of the vital changes needed for greater police accountability and public safety transformation. Again, there needs to be more input into police collective bargaining agreements and increased transparency regarding everything public safety.
The next comment is from Angela Schiefelbein. The provision in the CBA denying the possibility of any civilian review board other than the Board of Police Commissioners should be removed. Though the police commissioners and the CBA consider the commissioners an oversight board, the same agency that writes policy should not oversee policy, and the commissioners do not currently have a formal system of appeals from civilians. A true civilian oversight board would remedy these problems. Next comment is from Joel Schwerben. I would like to see greater transparency and more opportunities for public participation in collective bargaining agreement negotiations between St. Louis County and the St. Louis County Police Officers Association. The amount of public input on the Sergeant's collective bargaining agreement allowed by the St. Louis County Board of Police Commissioners is insufficient. There was not a public notice about the option of public input. Only a limited amount of time was given to the community to give their input, and there are only 400 words allowed. These actions and measures subverts public safety transparency and the public's trust of the police that we fund with our taxes. In addition, I would like to see the omission of any language that gives sergeants preferential access to evidence over civilians in misconduct cases, the inclusion of more civilian oversight in misconduct cases, and a streamlined process to get misconduct case information out to the public. These are only a few of the vital changes needed for greater police accountability and public safety transformation. Again, there needs to be more input into police collective bargaining agreements and increased transparency regarding everything public safety. Next comment is from Devin O'Shea. I and many of my St. Louis neighbors want police reform and accountability. I fully support the Coalition Against Police Crimes and Repression's demands, including but not limited to recognizing the Ethical Society of Police as an equal bargaining unit with equal rights and status throughout the details of the agreement. County Police Board of Commissioners should pass a policy that personnel records are open under the Sunshine Law. Outside second jobs should not begin until formally approved by the chief, and employment situations that compromise the department should be banned and not be subject to the chief's approval as in the CBA. Thank you for taking my comment. Next, comments from Maggie Mahoney. I would like to see greater transparency and more opportunities for public participation in collective bargaining agreement negotiations between St. Louis County and the St. Louis County Police Officers Association. The amount of public input on the sergeant's collective bargaining agreement allowed by the St. Louis County Board of Police Commissioners is insufficient. There was not a public notice about the option of public input. Only a limited amount of time was given to the community to give their input, and there are only 400 words allowed. These actions and measures subverts public safety transparency and the public's trust of the police that we fund with our taxes. In addition, I would like to see the omission of any language that gives sergeants preferential access to evidence over civilians in misconduct cases, the inclusion of more civilian oversight in misconduct cases, and a streamlined process to get misconduct case information out to the public. These are only a few of the vital changes needed for greater police accountability and public safety transformation. Again, there needs to be more input into police collective bargaining agreements and increased transparency regarding everything public safety. Next comment is from Jennifer Gallinet. I write requesting that the Ethical Society of Police be recognized as an equal bargaining unit and given equal rights and status throughout details of the agreement. Parity between the Ethical Society of Police and Fraternal Order of Police is necessary to promote racial equity. Special treatment does nothing to benefit the hardworking folks who truly wish to protect and serve their communities. Relatedly, the County Board of Commissioners must pass a policy that opens personnel records under Sunshine Law, as well as releases the names of those officers involved with the use of deadly force, except where doing so would jeopardize the officer's life. If you want to prove that you are the good guys, holding one another accountable is absolutely necessary. But there's also the need for a civilian review board that would provide independent review and oversight. While the Board of Police Commissioners does function as an oversight board, its dual roles mean there is no guarantee of an independent and or unbiased review. Finally, I am appalled at the allowances for combined police and secondary employment that are capped at 72 hours a week. Research has proven time and time again that a work-life balance is crucial for mental and physical health. This maximum must be lowered. The Department of Transportation's maximum is 70 hours over an 8-day period, and their work does not require nearly the level of mental decision-making and cognitive skills a police officer needs for their job. Though this comparison in no way diminishes the importance of truck drivers, only acknowledges that the Department of Transportation respects the needs and well-being of their drivers through their policy. Overworked and exhausted officers are unsafe to themselves and others.
This comment is from Alexandra Barrett. I would like to see greater transparency and more opportunities for public participation in collective bargaining agreement negotiation between St. Louis County and the St. Louis County Police Officers Association. The amount of public input on the sergeant's collective bargaining agreement allowed by the St. Louis County Board of Police Commissioners is insufficient. There was not a public notice about the option of public input. Only a limited amount of time was given to the community to give their input, and there are only 400 words allowed. These actions and measures subvert public safety transparency and the public's trust of police that we fund with our taxes. In addition, I would like to see the omission of any language that gives sergeants preferential access to evidence over civilians in misconduct cases, the inclusion of more civilian oversight in misconduct cases, and a streamlined process to get misconduct cases information out to the public. These are only a few of the vital changes needed for a greater public accountability and public safety transformation. Again, there needs to be more input into police collective bargaining agreement and increased transparency regarding everything public safety. This comment was sent in by Cy Spurlock. St. Louis County Police Board, thank you for opening up to public comment. Since the police are employed to serve the public, it is absolutely crucial to have public input in how the police function, so I appreciate the opportunity to write in. I have a few points that I hope you address during your conversation with the police force. First, the public is demanding that we know the disciplinary measures and the hiring and firing of officers. We want to know when officers are being fired, why, and if they are being rehired at other departments. Ultimately, we want this to end. We do not want officers that have been fired for misconduct to be rehired in another municipality to continue wreaking havoc on other St. Louis community members. This has been going on for too long and must end now. Second, the Ethical Society of Police must have equal appreciation as the St. Louis County Police Association does. The Ethical Society of Police must have equal bargaining power in these decisions. In a time where it could not be more blatantly obvious that law enforcement in this country has inherent racial bias, we all must listen to the most marginalized people in our communities and prioritize their experience and their demands. Lastly, and on a similar note, marginalized people across the country are demanding major changes in policing, even going as far as to say that we must defund and abolish police. When this is a rallying cry for so many people in our country, I hope that each of you takes it seriously, and instead of doubling down and fighting the idea of police abolition, you re-examine the relationship of law enforcement to the community. Think about what the community truly needs most, not about what you personally want for yourselves or for police officers. Consider moving towards community accountability and social service rather than military-grade weapons and mass surveillance. I'm reminded of a quote that says, "Trust the people and they become trustworthy." I hope that you are able to move forward through these conversations, trusting the community of St. Louis and what we are calling on for you to do. Thank you so much for your time. Many well wishes. This is from James Cooper. Please give the Ethical Society of Police equal bargaining power so that all officers are represented. It is obscene that police can exploit their union to keep personnel files private. The public has a legal right to know if specific officers are routinely problematic, violent, or corrupt. Please require that Jeff Reuter, a self-avowed racist and proven corrupt cop and liar, is not part of the negotiation. This is from LaRonda Wilson. The Ethical Society of Police should be recognized as an equal bargaining unit and given equal rights and statuses throughout the details of the agreement, and both organizations should promote racial equity. County Police Board of Commissioners should pass a policy that personnel records are open under the Sunshine Law. The names of officers involved in any use of deadly force or accused of excessive force should be released to the public as soon as possible unless the officer's safety may be jeopardized. The provision in the CBA denying the possibility of any civilian review board other than the Board of Police Commissioners should be removed. Though the Police Board of Commissioners and the CBA consider the Commissioners an oversight board, we do not believe the same agency that writes policy should oversee policy, and the Commissioners do not currently have a formal system of appeals from civilians. A true civilian oversight board would remedy these problems. The last comment is from Cassandra Butler. Dear Board, as a resident of Ferguson, I am active in the police reform taking place in Ferguson. I am grateful for the consent decree we have in place and feel that the entire county is overdue for some police reform, including the county. It has been clearly evident in the last years that police unions and union agreements have been barriers to good policing. CAPCR has made some very good points regarding accountability for individual officers and the recognition of the Ethical Society of Police as a bargaining agent. I support their arguments and hope you give us serious consideration to their comments.
The next comment is from Micah Hainline. Please work to get better transparency. It's terrible to have an agreement not to ever release officer names in an officer-involved shooting without a court order or an indictment. That is extreme. Please do better. Next comment is from Emily Davenport. I am a St. Louis City resident and in full support of the various community organizations and the acts that they are making surrounding the collective bargaining agreement. Civilians have a right to transparency in policing, the personnel records of police, a true civilian oversight board to prevent the police from policing themselves, and limits on employment seniority protections. What about informing the public is so scary to the current system? Next comment is from Joseph Cavato. I would like to see more opportunities for public participation in collective bargaining agreement negotiations between St. Louis County and the St. Louis County Police Officers Association and in the development and monitoring of police practices. Current practices and procedures do not provide sufficient transparency and public input. This appears to be very much an inside baseball process with little notice or public participation. The Board of Police Commissioners is supposed to represent the public and its interests, not provide a cloak of secrecy for police department operations. I would like to see the elimination of any provisions establishing preferential access to police regarding evidence over civilians in misconduct cases, more and real civilian oversight in misconduct cases, and better transparency in the handling of misconduct cases. Many changes to the county's and the board's policies are required to provide greater police accountability and public safety practices. County citizens need more proactive oversight from the board and greater access to information assuring its accountability to the public. Next comment is from the Mound City Bar Association. The Mound City Bar Association recognizes there is a problem with our approach to policing in our society. The problem manifests itself with the unjustified killing of African Americans at the hands of police and the disproportionate negative impact of policing on African Americans with more frequent stops and frisks, more charges and harsher sentences, and higher incarceration rates. This ultimately results in a loss of confidence and trust that severely hampers the law enforcement efforts to meet its primary duty, to protect and serve with integrity, dignity, and professionalism. The above duty is seen on most policing agencies' web pages in one form or another, but what is missing is civilian oversight and collaboration and a focus on addressing the causes of crime in our communities. MCBA supports and encourages the following reforms. Civilian review boards that are intricately involved in reviewing complaints against police officers and involved in the discipline and training of police officers. This cannot be done without subpoena power, and these reviews should be confidential until completed. The board should become comprised of diverse members from the community of the police they serve. A focus on alternative methods of policing that focus on collaboration with citizens and communications that focus on crime prevention by offering counseling and dispute resolution services and safe zones. Rules and training that prohibit the use of chokeholds and abuse of those in custody. Recognition or awards for officers and programs that benefit the communities they serve. Gun buyback programs in our urban areas. Implementation of drug and mental health diversion programs. Efforts to break the school to prison pipeline by partnering with community groups to provide role models and mentors. Strengthening of victim and witness protection services unit. Implementation of implicit bias training, and careful, independent, objective review of police shootings by the civilian review boards, independent of their review by the prosecutor and police. The above funding shifts should be implemented immediately. Our leaders should have the choice to reinvest in competent and evaluated programs for young people, community education opportunities, social services, and improved healthcare services, including telehealth, without obstruction from police unions. The MCBA supports these reforms because they work to restore faith in our criminal justice system. MCBA supports a safer and fairer city of St. Louis for all. That's the end of the comments.
Mr. Chair. Chair Price. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I think Judge Price may be experiencing a technical difficulty.
Well, I just wanted to thank the board for hearing me tonight, and if there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Good to see all of you, and I'm sure we'll have communications going forward. Thanks again. Appreciate it very much.
Would you tell Michelle to go ahead and take over as I got cut off?
Okay.
Can you?
Hey, Michelle.
Yes.
Judge Price got cut off and is having technical difficulties. Can you take over, please, from here?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to everybody who sent in a public comment. I personally was taking notes. I saw several of my fellow board members taking notes. It was very enlightening and insightful, and we appreciate your involvement. We're going to jump back to item B on our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from the September 16th and October 7th meeting. They are in your board packet. Once you've had a chance to look through them, may I have a motion first to approve the September 16th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I don't have.
Okay, they are approved and will be posted to our website shortly. Now the minutes from our October 7th meeting. I will need somebody who was present. I personally was not
I move
present. Okay,
that
second.
the minutes from the October 7th meeting be approved.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Those meeting minutes are approved and they will also be posted on the board's websites. Are there any letters and communications outstanding? I don't see any. Anybody else have any letters or communications to share at this meeting? Okay, any old business?
Can I just clarify that the public comment that was read today will all be submitted as a packet in the minutes for this meeting so that we'll have access to all of those written comments for review by the board?
Yes, I can make sure you guys all get copies of every comment, and they will all be posted on the website.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Let's move on to new business. We have 4 contracts for review and approval. The first 2 contracts are professional services agreements with Life Safety Strategies. Both are for programs to be taught at the St. Louis County and Municipal Police Academy. And I will put those up for vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, those will be approved. The second 2 contracts are professional services agreement with Randy Means and Associates LLC. Those are also for programs to provide training at the St. Louis County and Municipal Police Academy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
Okay. Commissioner Hassler, do you approve or oppose?
I apologize, I was on mute. I approve.
Okay. Judge, is Judge Price in your room, Commissioner Gertner?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And can you indicate how you vote?
Yes, where are we?
There are two professional services agreements with Randy Means and Associates LLC.
Okay, I would vote aye on both.
Okay, and I also approve those. We have 4 in favor and 1 against. Okay, so let's move on to our general orders. We have 2 general orders that are recommended for approval, although I'm going to let Lieutenant Dolly speak for a moment about, I know one of them.
Yeah, thank you. So General Order 27, the intoxicated driving offenses. Commissioner Schwerin was reviewing that and noticed some language that needed to be sort of adjusted a little bit and tightened up. It's not a huge issue, but just to make it better, we should probably hold that till next month. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay. Does anybody have objection to holding General Order 20-027 for our next meeting? Seeing nobody is indicating an objection to that, so we will hold that. The next general order for review and approval, or voting rather, would be the Crisis Intervention Team Program. Lieutenant Dolly, did you have any comments you wanted to make about that general order?
Sure, I'll just give a brief synopsis of sort of what the changes were. So this general order has been in effect for well over a decade. So we've updated it a couple different times over the years, but this time around we added some definitions about affidavits. We also clarified reporting procedures. So we sort of opened it up so officers can report different types of incidents without a police report. In the past, they had to have a police report. This has to do with the new database that we have, a new reporting system. And then finally, we added provisions in there about how to make warrant app through the prosecuting attorney's office for CIT cases. Any questions on it?
Hearing no questions, do we have any points of discussion among my fellow commissioners?
No.
I don't have anything.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? And forgive me, is this a vote that requires a motion to approve?
I so move.
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that general order is approved. I think now we are at the point in our agenda where I will ask for a motion to hold a closed meeting. The Board of Police Commissioners may vote to go into closed meeting for a review of claims and lawsuits involving the police department, Section 610-0211 RSMO, and Section 114-0201 SLCRO, discussion of employee and personnel matters, Section 610-0213 and 13 RSMO, and Sections 114-0203 and 13 SLCRO, and an update on union negotiations, Section 610-0219 RSMO, and Section 0209 SLCRO, and specifications for competitive bidding, section 610.02111 RSMO, and section 114.02011 SLCRO. Does this require a roll call vote?
Roll call vote, and I'll make the motion. We'll need a second.
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 Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler,
Yes.
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Commissioner Punch,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwerin.
Yes. Okay, we'll now go into closed session, and when we are finished with closed session, we will return to open session.
All right, we are unmuted and recording.
We have returned from our closed meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Goodbye.